Across-the-board budget cuts strike in less than 48 hours, and the president has yet to meet with Washington leaders to strike a deal. Instead, he's traveling on a campaign against the $85 billion in cuts.
And joining us now with more is Kereakos Zuras. He is a former advisor to President George W. Bush and an expert in turning around failing businesses. Now, Kereakos, we're hearing a lot of hype from the White House about the devastating impact these cuts are going to make. Is there a legitimate concern here?
No, there's really not. We're talking about less than 3% of cuts, $85 billion. And, if our economy is so fragile that we can't afford a small cut like that, then we've got bigger problems. This is the doom and gloom that the president's putting out so he can keep his increased taxes and propose more taxes to fund his agenda. There is no concern here. These effects will be over a period of weeks. The bigger problem is on March 27th when we have to come up with a real solution to the fiscal crisis that we're facing.
Well, the president seems intent on blaming Republicans. Is this about reaching a deal this year, or is this all about the next election in 2014?
This is about the next upcoming election because he's trying to just up the score against the Republicans. He's trying to blame everything on the Republicans, and he's trying to squeeze them to go along with tax increases and blame them for everything that they're not doing. The Senate hasn't acted on anything, and President Obama has done absolutely nothing. He's been campaigning. He has not been taking care of the problem.
Well, this across-the-board cut may not be the best way to make cuts, but doesn't the U.S. need to cut much more than, before we start talking about solving this problem?
That's exactly right, Charlene. Look, we're spending over $1 trillion more than we take in, and the president's proposing more spending. We need to make massive cuts, and we've been talking about this since August of 2011. We need to make massive cuts in entitlement programs, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, all the welfare programs. That there's so much waste in government, and we need to trim it back. If we can't do that, we've got bigger problems, and it's not going to get any better.
Now, you mentioned March 27th. What's happening March 27th?
Well, next month we've got we had a temporary stay on the fiscal cliff where they extended it. Now with March 27th, they're going to have to come up with something, to solve this fiscal crisis, to fund the government. Because if they don't make a decision by then, the government's literally going to shut down. So the bigger problem is we keep kicking the ball down the road, and come March they're going to have to really solve this fiscal cliff problem.
Definitely. Real quick, Kereakos, are these ongoing showdowns and budget crises hurting the economy?
Yeah, they're scaring people. Look, you had in the beginning of this segment, in the lead-in, you had the guy that owns the bike shop, and this is how small businesses react. Small business employs, 7 out of 10 people in the United States. Is the engine of our economy. When we get news like this, and we don't know what we're going to do, and there's increases and unknown certainties and regulations, and the sky's going to fall down tomorrow. People aren't going to move forward, and they're not going to hire. They're going to cut back. They're not going to buy things. They're going to do everything that man said, and this is not good.
Kereakos Zuras, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your insights.
Thank you.